Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and welcome back to this next video. And in this particular video, I'm going to focus on the application of cell signaling, and I'm going to tell you that why the studies of the cellular signaling pathways that is important. Now, the birth, life, and death of the living organisms that involve the integration of a complex array of biosignals that these living cells sense and process to respond and adapt to modifications of their environment. That means sensing the surrounding environment is actually based on the cellular signaling pathways, and the living organism do use the signaling pathways to respond and adapt to modifications in their surrounding environment. Now, the signals that are sent and received by cells during their whole existence, and they are very essential for the harmonious development of tissues, organs, and bodies. Now, the signals that these living organisms send and they receive, they are also very important for the movement, the thoughts, and behaviors in the living organisms. Now, it has now been very well established that the cells they do not behave as selfish entities, but rather they tend to form what is known as the micro societies, and during these micro societies proper functioning require a precise coordination of emission and a reception of signals. So the cells they are going to release signals, they are going to receive signals, and during the emission and the receiving of the signals the body is going to function normally in a physiological way. Now, understanding the molecular basis of these coordinated biological signals that is very important because it is going to give you a better insight into the different processes which govern the fundamental biological activities such as the growth, differentiation, and the quiescence. Now, when you talk about the cell signaling pathways, the cell signaling they actually underlies the critical cellular decisions made by living organisms such as development, the cell growth and division, the differentiation, the migration, apoptosis, and many other processes. As these processes they are very essential to provide the coordination for the functionality of a multicellular organisms. Now, when you talk about the importance of these signaling pathways, is they are very important in phenomena like the development, the cell growth, division, the differentiation, and migration. So it is very obvious that dysfunctioning in any of these cellular signaling pathways or dysfunctioning of these cellular signaling networks that is going to be associated with pathological situations that can range from the abnormal proliferation to death. That means that the signaling pathway they are very important for the normal physiological functions of the living organisms. Now, recently it has become apparent that a number of human diseases, for example, like the cholera, the hyperthyroidism, and the certain type of diabetes, they arise from a common mechanisms, and the common mechanism that is followed by these diseases that is a faulty communication among cells. So when the cellular signaling pathways or the cellular signaling networks they dysfunction, that can actually leads to different diseases as exemplified by the cholera, the hyperthyroidism, and the certain type of the diabetes. Now, these cancer cells they have a constant activation of the cellular signaling pathways, and what happens during the cancer that these instructions that are given to the cell to grow and divide they are lost. These instructions they are not followed properly. There are problem in these instruction pathways because of mutations in the receptors, the protein kinases, or the transcription factors. And when there are mutation in the receptors, the protein kinases, or the transcription factors, the cell cycle is going to lose control. And when there is loss of the cell cycle control systems, the cells they are going to divide abnormally, and then the abnormal cell division is actually the cancer. What this means is that the signaling pathways are very important to keep the cell division in a very controlled way, and when this control is lost in response to the loss in the signaling pathway, that can lead to different cancers in the human beings. And this is a very established fact that the cell cycle control system, which is controlled by a signaling pathway, when that is lost, that is going to lead to cancer. Now, some immunodeficiencies in the human beings that also occur because of the problems in the signaling pathways, because the immune cells, they lack the receptors for the ligands that instruct the immune cells to divide and develop, or lack the specific kinases that transmit these signals. What this means is that not only in diabetes, hyperthyroidism, or the cholera, or the cancer, the signaling pathways, when they dysfunction, that can also lead to immunodeficiencies in the human beings. Now, the signaling pathways that are not only restricted to human beings, they are also important for the plants. And the cell's communication is very important for the development of the plant. For example, the plasmodesmata, they are the regulatable channels which support macromolecular transport between the neighboring cells. Now, signaling molecules circulate within the plasmodesmata, and their transport can be altered in pathological conditions such as the viral infections. So, when the virus that is going to disrupt the signaling molecules, that can lead to pathological conditions in the plants. Now, the signaling pathways beside the human beings in the plants, that is also very important in the unicellular world, or in the microorganism world. Now, the signaling processes, they are very important in both the gram-positive and the gram-negative strain. Is the gram-positive and gram-negative strains of the bacteria, they use a signaling mechanism which is known as the quorum sensing. And during the quorum sensing, these bacteria, they are involved in the exchange of specific signaling molecules known as the autoinducers. And these autoinducers, they are helping these gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria in the establishment of a disease, in the overcoming of a particular environment, a harsh environment. So what this means is that this quorum sensing, which is actually an example of the cellular signaling pathway, is very important for the growth and survival of the gram-positive as well as the gram-negative bacteria, because these autoinducers, they are very important to govern the bacterial behavior. If we talk about the viral world, many viruses, for example the hepatitis B, they produce proteins that interfere with the host cell signaling pathways in ways that suppress the immune system. And when the immune system is suppressed by inhibiting the host cellular signaling pathway, that is an advantage to these viruses, because these viruses are going to enhance their reproduction. Looking at all of these examples, it is very obvious that the good signaling means good health. And when there are problems in the signaling pathways in the living organism, whether they are the human beings, they are the plants, they are the bacteria, they are the viruses, that means that they are going to negatively affect these living organisms. So during this particular whole course, I'll be focusing on different signaling pathways and different topics which are very important in the cellular signaling pathway, and that will further highlight the importance of the cell signaling, or the importance of the cellular signaling for the living world.